would like to welcome everyone to the February meeting of the City Council. At this time, we will call the roll.
Councilman Campbell.
Here.
Councilwoman Willingham.
Present.
Councilman Hadley.
Here.
Councilman Lawrence.
Here.
Councilwoman Smith. Councilman Palmer.
Here.
Okay, I believe Ms. Smith has called in and said she was sick, so she will be missing tonight. But, we hope she gets feeling better soon. Would you bow your heads for a word of prayer, and then we'll stand for the pledge to the flag. Our Father, we thank you for this day that you've given us. We thank you for all the opportunities that you have put in our path. And now and for the blessings that you have bestowed upon us, we give you thanks for that as well. And now as we gather around the table to discuss the city's business, we would pray that you would be among us and that you would give us wisdom and guidance as we deliberate and make decisions for the city. In Christ's name I pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You have received the minutes in your packet. Do we have a motion concerning the minutes or any additions or corrections?
Motion to be approved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I'll raise your hand, I should say.
That's in church. That's in
That's
church.
That's right. Sorry about that. Let's see. My fault too. We have a public hearing now concerning Small Cities Community Development Block Grant. Mr. City Manager, would you go through that with us?
Thank you, Mayor Twitty. We do have a public hearing on the agenda. The purpose of the public hearing is to allow the public the opportunity to provide ideas to the City Council regarding potential projects. The citizen input is the only purpose of the hearing. The council will not take any kind of action as a result of the during the public hearing. The projects, and I would like to note that the public hearing was advertised in the paper as required by the Community Development Block Grant Program. The eligible projects are funding for activities which include housing, public facilities, economic development, and what they call a combination of housing and public facilities. The housing grants are, the maximum grant amount is $500,000. Actually, the city of Camilla is involved with a housing grant right now through the Regional Commission. There's 10 homes that will be rehabilitated through the CHIPS program. We're still, the mayor signed, the city is where we're supposed to be in the progress of that particular grant. So housing was not considered. Public facilities is water, sewer, drainage, or streets, or senior citizen centers, Head Start centers, health departments, and the county, Mitchell County actually built the health department several years ago using those grant funds, and the city and the county went together and used those funds to help rehabilitate the facility that the Boys and Girls Club is in now several years ago. So both of those funds have been used, and the types of funds have been used in the past. Another grant program that's available is economic development grants, which that grant has also been used in the past here in Camilla and Mitchell County. And the last is a multi-activity grant. The applications that will be submitted to the Department of Community Affairs will be due on April the 1st, and the city will be competing probably against 200 other cities and counties from around the state. The applications are scored on the basis of demographic need, program feasibility, program strategy, and leverage, which is the amount of money that the local government puts in to match the grant that will be coming from the Department of Community Affairs. And in order to be considered for funding, projects must benefit a minimum of 70% of the low and moderate income persons within the target area. The project that's being considered by the city for this particular round of funding would be a sewer improvement grant in the Morningside subdivision and a water improvement grant in the Donald Lee Drive area, and also extending water out to the South Fork apartment complex. Many years ago when South Fork was constructed, they did not have adequate water pressure. They have enough water for your normal household things, washing, taking baths, washing clothes, dishes, whatever, but in the event of a fire, there would be a lack of pressure there, and this grant will be an opportunity for the city to run either a 6 or an 8-inch line out to South Fork and provide adequate fire protection. And those are the two. It'll be a public facilities grant, and those are the two target areas that will be addressed.
Okay. Do we have any comments from the public? Do we have any comments from the council?
So will it be fire hydrants along the way, all the way up there?
There will be fire hydrants. Right now, the hydrants stop back before, if you're going south of MacArthur, they stop prior to getting to Donald Lee Drive. There are no hydrants in that loop on Donald Lee Drive, and there's no hydrants from there out to the city limits. And hydrants would be installed. I think the engineering, the length of the line between hydrants, I think is 500 feet. And so they would be, yes, the hydrants would be included in there. And that's.
I was thinking like those houses running along the side for fire protection.
Yes.
Okay. Do we have any other questions, comments? I think it's a good.
The insurance, will it help them, or it won't make any difference since they already had one? Well, they didn't really have fire protection when they thought they did.
I think they're being insured based on our Class 6 ISO rating. Now, as I mentioned, and I guess in one of our work sessions, perhaps in a council meeting, one of our goals this year is to get our ISO rating to a Class 3. So there will be a significant savings for that apartment complex when we do that.
And this is just one step in getting to that.
This is a step in getting to that point. It is.
Do we have any other questions or comments? Well, I think it's a worthwhile venture. That's an area that needs some drainage, needs some help there, and also along MacArthur down to South Fork, extending water there and increasing the water pressure would be vital. So that would be a good project to work on. If there are no other questions or comments, we'll call the public hearing closed. Do we have a report from the administrative committee?
We do. Item number 1, council received a resolution to authorize the submittal of a 2012 CDBG grant application. This application would be for a water and sewer project. The Morningside Drive subdivision and Donald Lee Drive would receive new sewer lines. It would also include South Fork Apartments for increased water pressure and supply. The administrative committee recommends adoption of the resolution, authorizes the mayor to sign. This is in the form of a motion.
Second. We have a motion and a second to authorize the resolution for submittal of a CDB grant application. Mr. City Attorney, do you have the resolution? You want to go over that briefly?
Okay. It's a simple one. Whereas the city of Camilla is eligible to apply for a community development block grant from the Georgia Department of Community Affairs, whereas the city of Camilla has held a required public hearing to obtain citizen input into the development of the application, and whereas the city of Camilla is conducting an assessment of eligible programs and activities, and whereas the city of Camilla has determined that there are community needs that can be addressed by the community development block grant program funds. Now therefore be it resolved by the City Commission hereby authorizes the preparation and submittal of the Community Development Block Grant application for CDBG funding cycle 2012. Further authorizes that Mayor Vernon Twitty is authorized and consents to be authorized certifying official for this program, adopted this 13th day of February 2012.
Do we have any other discussion? All in favor then of the resolution and the motion, raise your hand. All opposed? None? Carried. We will be working on that and getting it off as soon as we possibly can.
All right, item number 2, a resolution for the MEAG Competitive Trust will authorize the city manager and the mayor to sign all documentation pertaining to the trust. The administrative committee recommends approval of the resolution and authorizes the mayor to sign. This is in the form of a motion. Bennett may want to give us a little briefing on what exactly this is.
Did you say?
I'll second it.
Okay.
Okay, MEAG, the Municipal Competitive Trust Fund are funds that MEAG basically refunds to the cities every year. They sit down and do a budget just like the City Council does. MEAG, Municipal Electric Authority of Georgia, their board, and they determine based on city usage of electricity in the city of Camilla and other cities that are part of MEAG. They look at the usage and look at what they think power is going to cost, and they come up with a budget, and the city pays monthly payments based on that budget. At the end of the year, there are funds that come back. The amount that's coming back every year is getting smaller and smaller, but they're
doing a better job of budgeting.
They're doing a better job of budgeting. And I was talking to our MEAG representative, and he said, well, what do you want us to do? You want us to do a better job of budgeting, or you want us to send you a check back? I said, well, we're going to pay one or the other. Anyway, this resolution would allow the mayor and city manager to take those funds, and we have historically, and I would hope to continue, putting those funds back into the MEAG account that is designed to level our spending. We buy power every year, and we also buy that power capacity. And with the approval of Vogel numbers 3 and 4, we're going to have a big. If you look at if you graph out our power costs, they're going along at a certain rate now. There's going to be a dip, but then it's going to go back up for 20 years. And what we're trying to do is make that line flat by reinvesting the competitive trust funds. That is a little more complicated than that, but I was trying to give you just a brief overview. But that's been what the city has done in the past, and hopefully we can continue that in the future. And this would just authorize the mayor and the city manager to make those decisions.
Okay. We have a resolution for that as well, I believe.
Yes, sir. Okay. Whereas the city is a beneficiary of the Municipal Competitive Trust that MEAG Power established as of January 1, 1999. Whereas pursuant to the terms of the trust, the city is allowed to transfer certain funds between accounts and withdraw certain funds from accounts by written direction to MEAG Power and the trustee. And whereas by official action of the city, a city official is delegated authority to make deposits to the trust and communicate city decisions with respect to the trust to MEAG Power and the trustee. And whereas in order to improve the notification process, MEAG Power has requested that all written directions communicating city decisions with respect to the trust being executed by 2 independent city officials. And whereas the city, after due consideration, has determined that such procedural changes are in the best interest of the city. Now therefore be it resolved that henceforth the mayor and the city manager, together the authorized officials, are authorized to communicate city decisions with respect to the trust by jointly executing with written documents to MEAG Power and the trustee. And further resolved that the city hereby authorizes the authorized official to execute and the city clerk to attest and deliver certificates specifying the names, titles, terms of office, specimen signatures of the authorized officials, and other certificates and documents that MEAG Power may require from time to time to effect the purposes of the trust and this resolution. This 13th day of February 2012.
Okay. Do we have any other comments or any questions? this authorizes the city manager and the mayor to jointly sign these documents for MEAG. All in favor, raise your hand. All opposed? Okay. It passes. Number 3.
Okay, item number 3, the city is a member of the Georgia Public Web. In the past, the city manager has served as representative. The administrative committee recommends city manager Bennett Adams be appointed to serve as the city's representative. This is in the form of a motion.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to name city manager Adams as our representative to the Georgia Public Web. It's pretty straightforward. Do you have any questions? If not, all in favor, raise your hand. And so moved, and it passes. Okay.
All right, item number 4, the council discussed an ordinance to amend and restate the retirement plan. Amendments to number 1, provide the current city manager will not participate in the defined benefit plan. Number 2, future city managers will not participate in the defined benefit plan unless contract provides for participation. Number 3, change normal retirement requirements for future city managers to age 65 with 5 years of credited service. And number 4, change vesting for future city managers to 5 years of credited service. The administrative committee recommends approval of the ordinance and authorizes the mayor to sign. This is in the form of a motion.
I have a motion and a second to amend the retirement plan. Do we have any?
Mr. Mayor, I believe the motion should be to dispense with second reading as well.
And dispense with the second reading.
Okay, well, I'll add that to my motion.
You want to give us a brief overview one more time?
Brief overview. This has been quite a drawn-out process. These are the documents that Mr. Coleman has reviewed, and GMA, Georgia Municipal Association, has sent down. There's probably a good almost a half inch of documents to go with this action that City Council is about to take. I'd ask that I not be part of the defined benefit plan, and by doing that, that's number 1. By doing that, future city managers will not participate unless they choose to. Number 3, our former city manager, Mr. Larkin, had requested that some of the requirements for vesting be changed, and this is putting future city managers, if they choose to participate in the plan, they will be back in the same vesting schedule as any other city employee. And as I said, he did ask that some things would be changed, and number 4 is to change that vesting period for future city managers to 5 years, as would any other city employee have that same requirement. If they were to be vested in the program, they would have to be employed for 5 years.
Okay.
And that's a very abbreviated.
I thought it was excellent.
He's been working on it.
Do we have any other questions for our city manager? Any other comments? All in favor of the ordinance, raise your hand. Opposed?
Now, it was 32 pages, Mayor. You sure you don't want me to read it?
No, we'll pass it. I think we have a good, understanding of that.
That's right.
Okay, item number 5, the 2011 year-end settlement from electric cities of Georgia is $17,627.53. City manager has recommended the city put 50% of the refund into a reserve fund and give the other 1/2 as a refund to pay for pole attachments and right-of-way documents being prepared by electric cities, and at the cost of $3,500 to $4,000. The remaining funds will be used to set up a fund to help assist City of Camilla utility customers pay their bills. The administrative committee recommends approval of this recommendation and authorizes the city manager to sign this document. This is in form of a motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to prorate the year-end settlement with Electric Cities of Georgia. Now, the reserve fund that was mentioned is a reserve fund with Electric Cities. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So you want to elaborate on that just a little bit?
I will, Mr. Mayor. The Electric Cities of Georgia is a group of cities that around the state, there's probably, most of them are also MEAG cities, 49 cities in the MEAG, that provide services to the cities that are really geared to electrical service, but they also do other studies. They're doing a cost of service studies for us, the city for gas, for instance, so we're talking about doing that later this week. They provide a number of functions, and each year they present a proposal on how many hours they think you'll utilize, and and you pay that. It's sort of like a competitive trust refund. You got a budget, you pay them on a monthly basis. At the end of the year, they refund the funds you don't. They refund the money's not used. And in this case, as has been discussed, $17,627.53 is coming back to the city. Several of the cities in the Electric Cities of Georgia group this year, they discussed the possibility of not funding the economic development function, and that would have made a significant, would have had a significant effect on the ability of Electric Cities of Georgia to provide economic development. That function, which is very important to us. They have been working with Paige Gilchrist and I on the Walmart project, and they're out there looking statewide for us, helping us. Sometimes it's hard to get prospects in Southwest Georgia, but these are our folks trying to get them down here. And when they were faced with the possibility of having a significant reduction in their budget, they have come up with this budget stabilization reserve policy. And what they're trying to do is get a fund balance, as we would say in government, sort of a rainy day fund. If this were to happen in the future, they would have some funds available to continue operating. And that's what they're asking here. And
Basically a savings account.
right.
Whereas if a city dropped out and decided they didn't want to continue with Georgia cities, then the others would have to raise what they were paying. But this savings account would fill that void.
It would, yes, it would stabilize it and give us an opportunity to look at funding different, funding
Right.
levels to make up the difference.
And correct me, but if I'm wrong, but they asked for the entire amount, but we had other needs for it as well. Part of what we're using them to do the right-of-way and the pole attachments, and that we're going to be paying them already. And we also have discussed this fund that the city would set up, whereby we would have an independent entity work with us to help folks with their power bills, or their electric bills, or their utility bills, on a case-by-case and a need-by-need basis. So this will allow us to start that fund, and hopefully we will be hearing more things down the road about ways we can fund that, or we perhaps raise some funds through the population, perhaps something similar to the EMCs, where they have a roundup on their bills, or something that we can do to enlarge this fund. But that's where these funds would go to. Anything else you need to mention that? Okay, motion to accept this money and prorate it to the Electric Cities of Georgia, and also half of it to stay in the city's funds for future use. All in favor, raise your hand. All opposed, like sign, and it so passes.
One other thing before you leave that be that I think is worth mentioning is that they approved the nuclear plant that license up at Vogel, which is going to significantly keep the utilities stable and possibly lower, and that happened in the last couple of weeks, and that's a real big thing.
Yeah.
Real big thing.
We're part owners.
Right, that's right, we've got to stake it.
Yeah.
All right, item number 6, Mayor Twitty made appointments in January for the Administrative Committee, Public Work, Public Safety Committee, and the Harney Street School Committee. The Administrative Committee recommends approval of appointments made by Mayor Twitty. This is in form of a motion. Would you like for me to read
Yes,
those?
would you read those, please?
Administrative Committee, Vivian Smith, Anna Doris Willingham, Danny Palmer. Public Works Committee, James Lawrence, Brian Campbell, Derek Hadley. Public Safety Committee, Vivian Smith, Brian Campbell, James Lawrence. Harney Street School Committee, Anna Doris Willingham, David E. Palmer, and Derek Hadley. Mayor Pro Tem, 1-year term, Anna Doris Willingham.
Do you have any questions about that? All in favor, raise your hand. All opposed, and so passes. Okay. Do you have anything else from the Administrative Committee?
That's all we have tonight.
Thank you. Public Works Committee.
Public Works Committee, February 13, 2012. The city received 3 bids from Campbell Street Flow Construction Project. The lowest bid was Jim Broad Construction of Albany. The bid amount is $13,495. This is the first project funded by the stormwater utilities. The Public Works Committee recommends acceptance of the low bid and authorize the city manager to sign documents in the form of a motion.
I'll second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second to accept the bid from Jim Boyd Construction for $13,495 for work in the Campbell Street Flow Structure Project. Bennett, would you give us a little more update, a little more information on that?
Well, one thing I'd like to clarify, and that is the exact wording that I probably used in the work session, but we've had 2 other large expenditures of the stormwater utility fund. One was actually paying for the study that was required by the state and the federal government, and number 2 was to repair a huge pump that's behind the Harney Street School. It drains basically that whole neighborhood. It pumps the water through a force main out to the area, the holding pond there on the south side of the new soccer complex, recreation complex where the old Camilla Woodyard used to be. But this will be the first drainage structure that a citizen of Camilla riding around can see. We spent money, but it'd be hard for them to see. But they can tell it if it rains hard enough. But this will be over on the Campbell Street area. It will be a structure that will restrict the flow of water. We think there's probably going to possibly back up as much as 15 to 20 acres of water at some varying depths based on the topography of the property there. And what that's going to do is hold the water that's normally flowing around under 19, around behind the Morningside area, and then on around the north of the city and through areas that have had some flooding on the north end of town. So it's going to hold back a significant amount of water. And this is the first of hopefully several projects that will be bid out this year that will be trying to minimize or mitigate the flooding we've had in the past in the city.
Okay.
The land is going to be backed up on, who owns that land?
The Development Authority owns most of it, the downtown Camilla Development Authority.
City of Camilla.
I'm sorry,
City of
City of Camilla.
No problems there.
Quite fine.
No, there's no problem there.
Matter of fact, when the next time they meet, I'm an ex officio member, and Councilman Palmer is a member. I guess anyway, yeah, he is. But Judd was.
Well, he's on there too, I become chairman.
Okay, all right. But I'm gonna request on the city's behalf that either a drainage easement or a deed, a fee simple deed for that property be provided to the city, just for the reason you're talking about.
We wanna make that clear.
Yeah.
We're not putting any water on anybody
You
else.
probably need to note that that property was deeded by the P&C Bank to the City of Camilla Development Authority. And want to thank the bank for that as well.
Have any other comments or questions? All in favor, raise your hand, please. And that passes. Okay?
Number 2, the city received 7 bids for the 8-unit T-hanger building for the city of Camilla, Mitchell County Airport. Corp Engineers has recommended the city accept the total bid from the engineer's assessment solution in the amount of $168,970. This was the lowest complete bid. The Public Works Committee recommended acceptance of this bid from the engineer and authorized the city manager to sign the document pertaining to this project. Form of a motion.
Second.
Motion and a second to accept the bid from Engineered Assessment Solutions for an 8-unit T-hanger building for the Camilla Mitchell County Airport. Bennett, you want to give us a little update on that?
Well, this project, Mayor Twitty, as the council is aware, was bid, I guess, bid out probably sometime in September of last year, and it came in a little over budget. We went back and made a couple of modifications with Croy Engineering. We checked with our airport manager, making sure that that we weren't gonna build a hangar we couldn't get a plane in, or something of that nature. And that was a consideration because we lowered the door height slightly. And you don't realize it when you, I'm not, one of the former city managers was an Air Force pilot, but I've never been around, commercial or private planes that much, but pretty tall evidently, the tail structure, so that was a consideration. And also to make sure the wingspan, but all that was done, and it was rebid, and we were fortunate to get 7 bids, and they were all really pretty close, except for 1 or 2, which you always gonna have a spread on either end. And the recommendation from Croy Engineering was to accept the bid from Engineers Assessment Solutions, which I think 2 of the gentlemen representing that firm are here tonight, actually. And with this acceptance of this bid, March the 19th is the date. We've had a pre-construction meeting already with our site work contractor, and of course they'll need to get with Engineered Assessment Solutions, because they're going to actually pour the slab and make sure the bolt pattern's right, so we don't have to go out there and start drilling holes and steel to get everything to fit together like it's supposed to. But this is it's moving the project along. We're also going to have an extension of the taxiway out there as part of this project. And
Okay. Any other comments or questions? All in favor, raise your hand. Okay. And that passes. Okay.
Number 3, the city has 3 vehicles from the police department and 2 pickups from the public works that need to declare surplus and authorize the city manager to auction on gov.deals or sale to neighboring municipalities. Public Works Committee recommend these vehicles be declared surplus and authorize the city manager to sell in the form of a motion.
Second.
Motion and a second to declare 5 vehicles surplus and sell in some manner. Bennett, you want to tell us about that?
there was some questions brought up during the work session about the low mileage on one of the cars. When I say low, it's got 80,000 miles on it. That particular vehicle, I did go back and check on that. It's the air conditioning in it does not work, and also it's got a rebuilt transmission and it's slipping again, so it's got some mechanical issues. The interior is not in good shape, and which that doesn't preclude it from being a serviceable vehicle, but it's being used right now as a backup only, and also for the equity security detail that the city has. So that's the reason they've got it on there, one low mileage.
So we're gonna keep it for equity, or we just?
No, I'm saying that's what they're doing now.
Oh, this is what it's doing now,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay. Any other questions?
Used car salesman wouldn't mention those flaws at all.
We're supposed to, we're together.
I like doing numbers.
Okay, all in favor of declaring the vehicle surplus and selling them, raise your hand. All opposed, thank you. And that so passes.
Number 4. Golden Peanut has requested the city split the cost of taking down an abandoned water tank belonging to the city and located on Golden Peanut property. Eisler Demolition has presented a proposal to demolition and removal of the tank, total at $16,800. The city's share is $8,400. Public Works recommended authorize payment to remove the tank in the form of motion.
Second.
Motion and a second to share the cost of taking down the abandoned water tank behind the Golden Peanut Company. This has been considered for a number of years, I believe, and was somewhat cost prohibitive. But this company is prepared to do it for this amount of money, as well as the steel in the building, in the tank. And obviously that has some impact on what they will do it for. So do you have any other comments on that?
Well, I would just sort of reinforce what you said, Mayor Twitty. It was a couple of years ago that this project was considered. I talked to Mike Scott about it actually at a meeting we were both at. I told him what was being proposed, and he was saying that was significantly less. He couldn't remember the amount than what had been proposed previously, and the city is being asked to pay half of that. It's our tank. It's on Golden Peanut property. At some point, it's going to become a liability to the city because it's going to continue to deteriorate. Become a structural integrity will be lost, and it's just I think it's an opportunity for us to spend some money and get that liability out of the way, and it's also not the most aesthetically pleasing site to see over there, and they've got a pretty nice facility over there, and then you got this tank above them that is, like I said, is not the best in the world. But hopefully the council will approve that. I think it's a good opportunity for us, and it's a public-private partnership working together to remove a problem in the community.
It's been out of service for a great deal, a long time. And it really is of no value to us. And so for us to have someone to offer to take it down, and for this amount of money especially, it is quite significant. Do we have any other comments or questions? All in favor of accepting this bid, raise your hand. No opposers? That passes. Do we have anything else from the Public Works Committee?
That's it, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. At this time, we have Ann Rice and Gary Rice here to discuss our emergency management plan. We, at our Georgia Municipal Association convention a couple of weeks ago, I was fortunate enough to sit in on a discussion or a hearing about ways to mitigate storms and disasters, and from several towns in North Georgia that had one that had a tornado or two had hit them, or one had been hit by a hurricane, one had a huge fire, but they were talking about the plans that they had. I knew that we had already been through the same thing, and we had plans in place, but we may not all know what those plans are and how they affect Camilla. Now, we are under the county as far as the management of disasters, and they have been running this for us for a number of years, and they're the lead agency. And we thought it would be a good time for them to come and discuss this with us. So Ann and Gary, would y'all come and fill us in?
Thank you for asking us to come and talk about this. We're not in the limelight very much unless there is a disaster. We do have plans. We have been working on our plans. That's a continuous thing. Every time we have a disaster, we rewrite plans because we learn new things. Our new plan is due this year. We'll be rewriting it. Another plan we have is the hazard mitigation plan, which is what you're talking about. And we did have representatives from the city of Camilla. One of them I know kind of well, Charles Kelly, sat on there serving for the city of Camilla as well as Carver Urban. And that plan, and you may have got a letter that just said it was passed by FEMA, so that plan is in place now for another 4 years. And there's several things, and I told Bennett what he could apply for. It's things you can work with as long as they're mentioned in the plan. And I know you all sat in on a emergency management session at your meeting, and I'm glad you did. There's a lot of things we can do, but we, like I say, we don't really get asked things until something happens. But we are here. I'm the local office here. Clark Harrell is the deputy director of that. Bennett was a deputy director. He still can be. He doesn't have to go away just because he works for the city. But it's a small, we got a small operation. And then I'm in a group that Gary oversees, which is 23 counties, the Southwest Georgia area. And basically the plan is when we get all our resources exhausted, we can do no more, we can't do anything else. We're trying to manage this based on a decision made by all of us as a unified command. And if you've had, I don't know if they touched on NIMS compliance, and I know you will, while you were in Savannah? Atlanta. That I don't know if they told you about, but all the public safety officers here, police, fire, EMS, we all have had NIMS training. They also offer NIMS training for officials. He teaches that class. He'll be glad to teach y'all. Have a class. I think you've been to it, or
a little bit, yeah.
Mr. Palmer went to it. We had it. It's several years ago, but I know you have new faces here. But I'll let him talk about some of the part where he steps in after we have exhausted all our resources. We have a unified command where we make decisions about the best thing to do that fits our city or our county. And then we'll go on up the line to GEMA to request resources. And those resource requests have to come through EMA. That's the only way you get it. And we have a lot of trouble sometimes with other people thinking, well, we need this. And it's just one-stop shopping. You come to me, I go to GEMA, we get the things. But I'll let you talk.
Hang on, before you leave, I know we have a tendency, we have that EMA speak. Would you explain what NIMS is?
The National Incident Management System, and that's what NIMS is. And it's training that all public safety and first responders take. So everybody across the nation's on the same page. It's based on forestry, national forestry, wildfire, how they work with wildfires. But we say unified command because that means there would be me in a room, you in a room, the mayor if it was in the city, the police chief, the fire chief, and we wouldn't be making decisions. Do we have school tomorrow? Do we have to close the road? Do we, just different things. And all that comes out of one room with one voice instead of a lot of people saying a lot of different things and lead to, because there's always already so much confusion then anyway.
And I'd like to pick up on that for just a second. When we talk about National Incident Management System, one of the big components of that is public information. And as you know, that can either help us or hurt us in a disaster. And so if we've got all the decision makers in one room and we come out with a unified voice and we get that information, and there's not one side saying, well, we should go here, the other one saying we go there, we come out with a unified voice. And I think that's very important because it helps us start getting that chaos back rounded up a little bit. But one of my role as a regional coordinator, like Ann said, I've got 23 counties, is to try and help gather resources when counties need it. And the first thing we try and do is go through mutual aid agreements to our neighboring counties. But as y'all know, when we have a tornado coming through, it usually doesn't hit one county and leave everybody else alone. And so what we try and do is we do try and work through our EMA directors, because, Mayor, if you were to call up there to Jim and say, I need 10 dump trucks, we're not going to say, well, the mayor called, we're not getting those. We're going to take that information down, but what we're going to turn around and do is call Ann and say, the mayor's called and asked for 10 dump trucks, do you need them? Because we don't know that she may have ordered 10 for you, and now we've got 20 dump trucks here to where you needed 10 and we shorted somebody else. So we try and coordinate those resources. So I don't want you to think that you can't call and get resources. We're just going to verify back, which usually slows the process a little bit. So that's one of the things that's my responsibility to do. Another big issue that we face during disasters is always, and it's always a question, is sheltering. You know, when do we shelter, where do we shelter, and that whole deal. I'd like to talk just a little bit about that for you. Sheltering is about 4 or 5 different agencies working together. We have our local EMAs, public health at the local level, Department of Family and Children Services, American Red Cross, and or Salvation Army. And that group of people are the ones that are responsible for sheltering and making sure it happens. And you see we've got some local agencies, some state and some volunteer agencies, but we go out and we do pre-inspections of the facilities that the counties identify as being the best ones. A lot of times where we get into situations though is a lot of these counties don't have anything large enough to shelter except for schools. So therefore we bring the school system on board as well, because we can't just go in and take over the schools and say, you're going to close schools so we can shelter. So we do bring those into the fold, but we do go out and pre-inspect the shelter, so if something was to happen tonight, we know that that shelter's capable and it's safe and it's got security, and we can go ahead and open that shelter. That's one of the big things. We do post-event sheltering. We don't do pre-event sheltering. That's something that people always ask us is, we've got a tornado coming and you know we've got people in mobile homes, we'd like to move them to a shelter. Well, if we knew the exact path that storm was going to come, we'd do that. But we don't want to gather 1,000 people in a school gymnasium and that gymnasium collapse, and then we put people in harm's way. So that's one we always have to address. People always say, well, why didn't you open the shelter before? If we had the science down to where we knew it was going, we'd do that. But so we do post-event. One of the big issues that Katrina caused us is our sheltering issues have really, I can remember when I first started doing this that we used to open congregate shelters and people came and they knew that they were going to sleep on a cot and they may get a bologna sandwich and they were going to have somewhere safe and dry. That, people don't want that anymore. Katrina caused that problem for us in all honesty. You know, and I'm not throwing stones anywhere, but Red Cross gave them vouchers to stay in motels and one thing or another. And now when we start talking about sheltering people, they say, I'm not going to a shelter, I want to go to a motel. Well, if you only got 1 or 2 families, that's an option. But what we found out is we can go out and survey and say, how many people need to go to a shelter? And you may come up with 5 families. It's still cheaper to go to a motel. But once that cell phone goes ringing, I got a motel, your 5 goes to 500. So what we're trying to do is do a better job of identifying people that absolutely have a need, and then maybe open a smaller shelter. And we tell people up front, you're going to have somewhere dry, you're going to have a cot. And most of the time when you tell people that now, they've got a friend or family that you can go stay with, and they don't come out as much wanting the motel rooms. But that's one of the biggest issues that I see as a regional piece is the coordination of sheltering. And what we've actually tried to do is, Jim is working on a plan now, it's called a 50-55, and we're trying to do a state plan for us to house 50,000 people from 50 counties for 5 days. And that would be in the event of course, a hurricane or something like that. But we're actually going out working with selected communities, larger communities basically. And we've got 5 of those down here. We've got Thomas County, Dougherty County, Colquitt County, Lowndes County, and Tiff County. Those 5 that we're buying supplies and stuff for, to where if you had people here that you needed to shelter, we'd make arrangements to get them there, rather than you open up a shelter with 5 people here and then with 10 because of the resources that it takes to do it. So we're working on that plan. We realize that sheltering is going to be an issue for us. Is there any questions specifically that y'all have for us that we could answer? I think that we'd be glad to answer. It's hard for us to give you a briefing, really not knowing where your mindset is and what you're needing from us.
Just know that the local, we do everything we can to be active with GMA and do everything we can to keep our plans up to date. We just ask for participation from the cities and the counties and public safety members so we get the best plan we can have for our county.
Well, let's just say we have a hurricane on the horizon, and it's maybe a day or two away. And what are you looking to do yourselves, and what are you expecting us to do?
Well, what we would do, of course, we would hope everybody's paying attention to the weather and getting ready. People that are in mobile homes, we would be encouraging them to seek other places to go. People that are in brick homes, you know, you make preparations about your loose things. We would be getting the county and the city would probably go out and start cleaning out drainage ditches so the water would flow easier. We'd be getting barricades ready if we have to close roads. That is kind of preparation. And it really, I'd rather have a hurricane than a tornado any day because a tornado's here and gone. But we would be getting ready. We have that code red system that I really hate that people don't take advantage of that when it's free offered to them. And I'm not sure how many phone lines we have in the county now. That's a Clark Herald question, but we have it right at 3,000 people. That's all that participate in.
We have about 10,000.
Phone lines.
I think that's correct.
So are we actually pushing to get that? I mean.
Oh, we do. There, you can sign, and every time I speak to groups or churches or whatever, we always push code red. And every time we have a storm, there'll be a little influx. We'll get 2 or 3 people call and say, how do I sign up? Because their neighbor has it. And that, you know, word of mouth has been the best way for people to find out about it. But we would do, that system has the ability for us to put messages out, that we could send a message out to all the phone lines like, this is what we're going to do, or there will not be. And the school systems have the same thing, you know, the call downs, we're not going to have school tomorrow.
Yes.
And so those kind of things we do. And what we would want from the city would be, you know, a unified front. Again, this is what we need to do. Everybody needs to be getting ready. You know, there'll be a run on water at Walmart. You know, that people be buying up ice and things like that. It's just get your flashlights ready. But there'd be a lot of public service announcements and things what we would do. There would be, if we had that kind of time, there may be a piece in the paper. This is what you need to do. Yeah. We may, at one time we had a hurricane coming. We went to all the service stations and put up flyers on the door. You know, this is what's happening. We encourage you to keep moving because we have nowhere for people to be because we were in the path as well. So it's just there's a lot of little things that start taking place.
And you would be coordinating. You would be getting with the cities and the county and getting your team together.
We have which. I know it's on the weather group. We have briefings, webinars with the National Weather Service on a regular basis, usually twice a day when it gets to that kind of situation. That's forwarded out to the schools so they can go on and make decisions about closing. That's forwarded to other people that, like EMS for when I have to take considerations about high wind and putting that box on the road with a patient in the back and medics in the front. Do you want to do that? Can we shelter in place at the hospital? You know, there's a lot of things that go into all that. But there are a lot of decisions that are made in the background, but we would want the word to get out to the people, this is what to do.
Well, in past years, you know, we had a siren, but not many people could hear it. Depends on which way the wind.
It's not a very good siren, but
this is much better.
That's
what we need to do. But the only thing I've heard is some people that have signed up for it. How far out? Most of our tornadoes come from Alabama. And when it hits Blakely, because they said it called them at 3 o'clock in the morning, says tornado hit Blakely.
It's a warning. It sounds when there's a warning. And National Weather Service is actually the one that pushes the button on that. It's not me or Clark or the county administrator or anything like that. It's the National Weather Service that sets that off. When a warning is, when you go in the code red system, I put you in there by the longitude and latitude of your residence, your house. And so when the National Weather Service draws their little magic box about this is what area is in danger, if you're inside that, that's how code red will pick you out. Because I've had calls before when my neighbor down the road about a mile got a call, but I didn't. Well, they were outside the line. But that's just how, I mean, it's as good as it's going to get with that kind of technology. But it's a big improvement over the siren.
Well, and the good thing with Code Red is if you're in Albany and you give them your cell phone number and your home's in danger, you're going to get that call in Albany where you haven't got to be within a half mile of that siren to be able to hear it. I was actually in California one time and got a tornado warning for my home. So, you know, on my cell phone. So, you know, and you can register as many numbers as you want. You can have your house number there, your cell number, whatever. It's a great system. It really works. And just not try and belittle what Ann said, but the difference between the warning and the watch. A watch means that the conditions are favorable, and we put the alert out on a warning, and that's when it's either been spotted on radar or human eyes have seen it. So that's the only time, because if we did it every time we get a watch, those things sometimes we'll go under tornado watch for 6 or 7 hours, but you only get a warning for a very short period of time. So it's a great system.
And still being in Mitchell County, and y'all know this as well as anybody, we are very weather sensitive here. Everybody knows tornadoes, and when the weather gets a little crazy here, people start calling. But I do, you know, I've always said that, and every time I talk to a group, and I always emphasize, take care of yourself. And that's a big thing on Ready, Georgia now, is self-sufficiency, taking care of yourself for 72 hours, sheltering in place. Don't get on the road in the middle of all this, but learn how to be ready at home and take care of yourself. And to prepare for the fact that there may be nobody to help you for 72 hours. That's what we look at as an agency. We may get swamped, but we may not have any outside help from Jim or anybody else for 72 hours. They may not can get to us because they're just overwhelmed. But I always like to tell people to pay attention to what's going on around you, because you're really responsible. I can't go to every door and knock on it and say something's coming, go hide under the bed. I can't do it. There's no way to do it. But everybody is pretty weather conscious in our community. They know when something's going on. Most people move now that are in mobile homes. They go into a relative's house or a friend's house that's a little more sturdy, and they make their preparation.
Well, let's submit it. Go ahead, Jim.
I know we got the CNNs without the channel. Maybe it's something we can run to actually keep encouraging the code red. I mean,
we do that periodically. And why don't you explain? I mean, a lot of people watch this on our local access channel. Explain how you can sign up for code.
Well,
I just fixing to ask her.
yeah, because you put it on that channel, because everybody watch that channel just about.
It has been on that channel before several times, and we ought to do it every year, off and on. We do have, if you go to the Camilla, your city, the CNS front page, it's on there, sign up here for code. And I realize everybody doesn't have a computer.
Sure.
So what we do, if you call my office, out at EMS or EMA, or you call Clark Harrell's office at 911, don't call 911, but his administrative line, we'll enter it for you. When I go talk to like senior groups or the churches, I always take blank forms and hand them out, and and I'll take them up and I'll go back and enter them in. But we try to we have, when we first got Code Red, we went to all the churches. We put it in the church bulletin. We ran it on the CNS scroll thing. We got Mitchell EMC to put it in their bills. You know how they would sometimes be sure to call this number and sign up for Code Red. But you know, everything but go twist somebody's arm and say you got to get in it. I mean, and it's free. And we really try to tell them it's free. It's free. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything. So,
you know, periodically during the year. I mean, if it's every quarter, once a quarter, just run it. That way, everybody will.
Well,
And the price should be used that.
yes, we've done that.
I mean, just do it again because
We
sometimes
do.
you have new people moving in.
Well, it's almost time for, well, let's see, this will be tornado season coming up.
Yeah, more than
So we'll get, we could get Reginald to come
We've
to
had
a
some
big
in
store.
February.
Yeah, February's a good month for us.
Like tomorrow.
Like tomorrow would be good.
But usually, it's about time for Channel 10 to call me to ask me how I feel about it, 12 years later.
I have a question. Who's in charge of the road closures? I know I came up on it was several years back, and I approached a road that I was living on, and I think it was a guy in a dump truck. I don't know if he was with DOT or whatever, and he advised me that I couldn't go down the road. Well, you're trapped in between, that road and your residency, and then you have all these other side roads. I asked him, what's my plan of action here? I can't turn around. The road's just as bad here. And he advised me that he was going to call the Georgia State Patrol you're keeping me from what is the plan there? Because, we've got someone that's not an official that can make these decisions and, wasn't coordinated properly. This was, I want to say this was probably about 3 years ago.
I imagine that was DOT talked about closing the road, but it was probably, the sheriff's department is so short-handed that they probably put a public works guy out there and says, don't let anybody go down this road, it's dangerous.
Right.
And yeah, that was about 3 years ago.
I mean, every road was that dangerous.
And
there's a long line of people being kept from their.
I think what you got to look at there, it could have been a county official, because once either DOT or Public Works is advised that there's a wash across that road or whatever, and it's a safety hazard, if they let you go down there, city, county, state assumes all responsibility for what happens to you.
Right.
So that's when they deem it's unsafe for you to cross there anymore. That's when they're going to post it and say, sorry, you can't go down there.
Right.
But that's probably why it was somebody not dressed
Yeah.
out, somebody, because we get shorthanded in things like that. And there
Right.
was the guy, don't let anybody come.
My
in.
decision was not to stay in the vehicle. So, you have to, at one point. Right.
Well, we appreciate y'all coming. We know we have a plan, and I know we have a copy of it. But we wanted you to come and let the public know that what's going on, and that we have plans in place for contingencies and for disasters. And while we certainly hope they don't come our way, we feel like we are in pretty good shape as far as having a plan to address it when it comes up. But our city manager will certainly be in touch with you and anything that does come up. And so, and you will be in touch with us, I'm quite sure.
Right.
So, does anybody else have any questions?
I just like to comment, is excellent
Yes.
idea about these cell phones, because so many people from Camilla work out of town, and they be maybe in a factory environment, they might not know what's going on. I know we came home in '75, we were in Albany, and we didn't even know there was a tornado. We got here, and we couldn't get to our house, and that kind of type thing. So.
Well, my son, he lives in Alabama, and his cell phone's in there, and it rings for my address, and he'll go, Mama, are you okay? Just things like that, because we have a lot of kids that are in college, and they want to know, are their parents okay? Well, they're in there for that reason.
Well, we appreciate y'all coming and
Y'all do a good job.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
We will see about getting some code red advertising on some of our future billings. City attorney report.
I don't have anything tonight, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. City manager.
Mayor, in the interest of time, I think I gave y'all a pretty lengthy report at the work session, but I wanted to bring up three things for the council. First is, we've talked several times about the fact that we're in the natural gas business, and the natural gas vehicles are out there, and we need to start looking at that. And I meet with our other city managers and our South Georgia Governmental Services Authority once a month, and we're actually, last Friday, we talked about buying a natural gas vehicle through South Georgia Governmental Services Authority. And the more we talked about it, the less we wanted to do that as a group. But I think I'm going to recommend that the city buy a couple of gas-powered vehicles, natural gas-powered vehicles. We can get a slow fill station for a reasonable cost. A fast fill for a large fleet would cost $1 million, but we're looking at probably $4,500 for something that'll, fill up the tank over an 8-hour period. Our school system is also looking at converting to natural gas, and natural gas is plentiful. The price is has come down, and hopefully it'll stabilize and stay at that level for some period of time. So I know there's been a good bit of interest from some of the council members about doing that, and I'll pass this around, and there'll be some more information on that, but we are pursuing that. Senate Bill 313, which deals with it would restrict the city's ability to provide broadband services outside of our city limits. The mayor asked that the city contact the people on the committee. We have emailed them a little cover letter that I wrote specific to Camilla, and then we also sent them some information on the South Georgia Governmental Systems Services Authority and why it was formed, and of course the CNS, our brand for the broadband. As late as this afternoon, I had Paul Radford from the Georgia Municipal Association call me, and he was wanting us to continue to contact our elected officials. I personally talked with Freddie Powell Sims, and she said she's going to oppose the bill, and I told him that we had already sent this. So that's something we need to continue to be vigilant about until a vote is taken. The last thing is April the 22nd through the 28th is Georgia Cities Week. Everybody's probably seen this. Got some big posters. This comes at a good time because our tennis tournament, Pro-Am, is at the end of that week, and we're going to try to do several activities this year, and I'll have more on that. I'm going to talk to got a department head meeting Wednesday, and we're going to talk to the different departments about trying to do some things, clean up of the city, maybe get some volunteers to help do that on maybe Saturday morning. Talk about with the police department and the fire department about having an open house at the fire department and at the police department for the citizens to come in. I think we've still got some bike safety pamphlets left over from some other. Anyway, we're going to try to do some things to let the community know what we're doing. I may try to write an article in the paper about it to talk about the different things that we're doing in the city. We're doing a lot of positive things. It's just a matter of letting citizens know what we're doing. Sometimes we do a bad job of marketing, and I think that's probably true of any government, not just the city of Camilla. But those are just three things I wanted to make the council aware of, and that's all I have.
Okay,
there.
thank you. I do not have any other announcements at this time. Do we have any other business to be brought before the council? Do we have any citizens that want to make a presentation? If not, do I hear any other motions?
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn in a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Thank you, and we are adjourned.